Welcome to Meet the Candidate. My guest for this session is Rob Chase, who is running for State Legislature, State Representative, District 4. Mm-hmm. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Sue Lani.
We've had a number of conversations before, but there are always new voters and people who need to get acquainted with who's on their ballot. So this is an opportunity to learn some more about you and where you grew up and went to school, some of those formative years, events and experiences.
Okay. Can we just jump right into it?
Jump right in. Where'd you grow up and go to school?
Well, actually, I grew up all around the Northwest, mostly Seattle, and I lived in Seattle from 59 to 69, and then moved to Kellogg. My dad got back into mining, so actually I graduated from Kellogg High School in 72. And then in 74, I came to Spokane for Expo 74, and I never left. I've been here ever since then. But I did finally... I never knew what to do with my life. You know, I was one of those people. That's how people become insurance agents and things like that, or real estate agents. And but it would have been nice. I didn't have a clear path, so I went to school every once in a while. But I enjoyed taking classes, learning things, and I finally didn't get my degree till I was 38. But I think I learned a lot of stuff, you know, in between. It all kind of applied to our lives now. I mean, as long as you're all learning something, you know, you always find a reason to use that too. So I finally graduated with a business degree in operations management. In the meantime, though, I worked in a lot of different variety of things. You know, I mostly had a background in mining and metallurgy and smelting from Kellogg.
History,
and my father, and worked for him for about 13 years. Then I worked at Seattle First Bank. You know, Bank of America is what it changed into then. Then I worked at I always kind of liked manufacturing, so I always went to manufacturing jobs. Then I was at Hewlett-Packard for 8 years, and then they shut that down like the first wave of layoffs anyway, which included me. It was 2 weeks after 9/11. So then I've been in insurance and real estate and a variety of other Hawken Industries out in Cheney. But then I run a couple times for office because I was really interested in politics. When I got the internet, I suddenly realized, gosh, there's a lot of stuff I've never learned in civics class. There's a lot of stuff I've never heard on the mainstream news, and I realized our country's in trouble. So I became a political activist. My first race was actually against Bob McCaslin Sr. I ran for state senate as a Libertarian, got 5%. I thought, you know, that was kind of fun. I had a bully pulpit to talk and say what I wanted to. Then I ran against George Nettercutt because I knew that going to Iraq was going to be a huge mistake. We'd get a lot of people killed, spend a lot of money, and as it was, you know, we not only did that, we killed 1 million people who, you know, had nothing to do with 9/11. So I always feel good that I did get to go on air and at least warn George that wasn't a good idea. But then I ran for county treasurer, you know, kind of as a write-in in 2010, and I ended up winning. So then I served 2 terms as county treasurer. I ran for county commissioner 2 years ago, didn't make it. But you know, maybe I was meant to legislate, so we'll see.
Okay, well that covers a bunch of questions about how you got into politics. So what are some of the other experiences that you had, a key experience you had perhaps in your early work history that helped shape your attitude towards work and business?
Well, I was worked at Sunshine Mining Company in 1971, and I wasn't 17 years old yet, so I didn't get to go down underground. And my cousin worked there. He's making great money being a silver miner. And then I was all set to go there, but then the Sunshine mine fire happened, you know, and that was, for Kellogg, a big thing, you know. And then it was 91 guys that were killed, so that was huge. And I heard there's a fire at the mine. It didn't live too far away, so I was walking up to it, and when a Q6 truck drove past me, I thought, wow, maybe this is something big, you know. So that kind of affected you know, my early life somewhat, but I went to college, went from at University of Idaho, went from mining engineering, which I shouldn't have taken because I was terrible at math, and then I went to teaching, and then to history, and then I ended up in drama, which was kind of fun, but I just wasn't getting anywhere. So then I moved down here, worked across the street from Expo 74 at the Goodyear Tire Shop. So I'd always planned on leaving Spokane, but as the years go by, I had a family and everything, and I may as well stay at a place that I know, instead of somewhere I don't know.
So where did you meet your wife?
Actually, my secretary had a secretary, and she had just bought a house, but she needed a roommate, so she had me write the ad. So. For the paper, so my wife answered it, my wife-to-be answered it, and then during Mount St. Helens, she's my fiance, and then she came to my apartment in Mount St. Helens and never left. So we've always been together since. I've been married 40 years with 4 kids and 2 grandkids.
Oh, grandchildren are
4
alive?
Grandchildren, yeah, sorry.
Sometimes you can lose track.
There's 2 new ones I had to remember. Yeah.
Two brand new ones. Mm-hmm. So. So is there some interesting travel or volunteer experience that's helped shape your attitudes?
Yeah, I think becoming an activist and helping people, I started out, like I said, running, but then when I was a big fan of Ron Paul's, and then in 2008, I joined a group of like 8 other people that were on his campaign, and then it turned into thousands, and then eventually I became Eastern Washington coordinator for Ron Paul for president. And then that kind of got me back into politics again, and that was in 2008 and 2012. And I think the whole liberty movement, the Patriot movement, Tea Party, it all kind of came out of that too. And I think Ron Paul never won, but I think Trump, got a lot of that group, that activism paid off, I think, in the future, because a lot of people do realize our country's in trouble, and reading up on it. Back when I ran the first time against Nethercutt, I couldn't have told you what amendment was which, but I just knew we were in trouble. But I do think the U.S. Constitution, our system, is the best system the world has ever devised. And my simplest soundbite is, if we had followed the Constitution, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today. So I started out this year running against Kathy McMorris. I thought, okay, now that I got a political resume, and I'm a Republican, instead of a Libertarian, I wonder how I could do. So I did that to kind of have that bully pulpit again and tell Kathy, see her face to face, and well, here's what you should do different and all that. So it's kind of fun. And I was going to run as a Trump Republican too. I even was going to put that on the ballot. I had a friend who copyrighted that, and I thought that would have helped me quite a bit. Suddenly, about May 5th, I got a call from State Legislator Matt Shea, and he wanted to get together with me. And some people had approached him, and they wanted him to run against Kathy instead, and he would have a better chance, which I would agree with. So in that case, I could run for his position. So I agreed to do that. And 15 minutes before filing was over, we all filed. And like 5 minutes after, Matt Shea called me, and I said, well, did you get filed? And he said, well, no, something came up. So he didn't get filed, but I was filed for his position. And Matt actually, it turned out, was going to go into the ministry. So I think God puts you where he wants you to be. So hopefully, this is where I'll be.
It was an interesting scramble at the end of filing week.
Yeah, it was really.
So 2 last questions. One is, how do you see the responsibilities of a state legislator? And that's just to educate voters. This is your opportunity to explain how you see those duties.
Well, you're representative. You represent them and listen to them. When I was county treasurer, I met with anybody who wanted to meet with me. If I couldn't find an answer to a question, I always found out who could answer that question. It wasn't always what they wanted to hear, but I did do that, and I like talking to people. I mean, all kinds of people all across the spectrum. That's the best part of the job, because I represent them. So out of that variety of people, you kind of come up with somewhat of a consensus of what people want, along with balancing that with your own worldview of things too. And so I think being a representative is, you have a duty to represent them. They have a duty to pay you for it, but they also have a duty to correct you when you're wrong, and to give you advice, and to do what you can for them with all of their things. So finding those balances is what's important. So I know when I ran for treasurer, the spokesman really never expected me to win, but they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I just want to be remembered as a good treasurer. So I want to be remembered as a good legislator whenever that time ends.
Well, here's the opportunity for that last 60-second soundbite to tell me directly, why should people vote for Rob Chase for state representative for the 4th Legislative District?
Okay, go to electrobchase.com. and I've got my whole spiel on there, my worldview and everything. And if you think I've made the case that I should be a representative, I've been active for a long time, I know all the players, then make an affordable donation to me. And it's actually a lot of fun. Before I got into politics, I really didn't have very many friends, and now I've got almost too many friends. So it's a wonderful thing to do. And I was trying to find something that would sum up what a representative should do. In the Bible, Micah 6:8, it says, what we're to do is to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with the Lord. I think if I can do that, I can be a good representative.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in today, Rob, and good luck with your campaign season.
Thank you, Sue Lani.
90 million Christians are eligible to vote.
40 million didn't.
That's 45% of eligible Christians not voting.
We can change that.
We believe We Vote was designed to arm people of faith with information on candidates
And how they line up with biblical and constitutional principles.
It's simply WeBelieveWeVote.com.
We're on a mission to rev up the 2020 election.
Tell your friends, your neighbors, and especially your pastors to rev up.
Be an educated voter.
Arm yourself with truth based on the Word of God.
2020, rev up.
Register, educate, vote.
Rev up.
Rev up.
Rev up 2020.